We are live. Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to Nerdside Champs. I am Dan. The person right there next to me is Tim subscribe to at Nerd Champs. And we are the Nerd Champs. Right below me, we have Travis. Travis is Tim's college roommate, and he has joined us today. Where can the people on the interwebs find you, Travis?
You can find me at withtravis.com.
All right. With Travis.com, he reviews things. Tim said you do parental reviews and stuff like that. Is that?
Yeah. If you've been on Common Sense Media or like Kids in Mind, similar to that.
All right. So today we have gathered to review, as we have every week, the latest episode of Skeleton Crew. This one is episode 4, and I believe it's called I don't think I recall any at-atten or whatever it is that the droid keeps saying. So we've all watched it. Guests go first. Travis, what were your takeaways this week from Skeleton Crew?
Oh man. So I thought that last week's episode was a little bit on the slower side. I felt like this was a little bit on the slow side, and there were some things I was expecting to happen that didn't happen. But I got a lot of questions out of it, and it wants me to watch another episode so I can see if they answer some of them. But it's still a high note for Star Wars TV, at least in the last few years.
Yeah. What was your general feeling, Tim?
Very similar to Travis. It was a slower pacing episode, not anything that was action packed, not anything that was. It did feel very, very much like a filler episode, which does have to happen when you got to stretch this to 8 episodes. Just a few things that I really did enjoy about it. I actually, about the third or fourth time that the droid did say I can't say as I remember. No, and it got to the point where you knew it was going to be a big thing in the plot, and then it did become a big thing in the plot in the map room, which is something that was kind of predictable, but also was kind of cool. I really did like that. Yeah. And then I did like kind of at the very beginning how they kind of had just kind of some different vibes of this kind of post-apocalyptic version of at-atten. I thought that was kind of interesting. That it's almost like that's kind of what they were going for. Like this is maybe at-atten, but in a different time. And if something different had happened with some kind of apocalyptic event that nobody really knows about, this is kind of how it would have ended up. You would have had the kids, and you would have had all kinds of people kind of fighting for themselves and everything. It was kind of a unique take on things, and so I thought it was very interesting, but yeah, overall a little slower, not as action packed as I would have liked. A lot of Neel. They're really pushing Neel again, so that's something that was in the forefront of this episode as well. But yeah, overall still liking the series very much.
Yeah, I was me generally, I really enjoyed this episode. If I have a couple qualms, some of these episodes, they're not just slow, they're like incredibly short. Yeah. Like if this was a section of scenes in a film, right, it wouldn't feel all that slow because it's only 15-20 minutes, sort of, and you'd barrel through it. But if it's all you get for a week, you're like, well, not much happened. But then again, not much time went by either. Because these episodes are so short. And I don't know, Travis, are you paying the extra money to not get the commercials with Disney Plus, or are you struggling like eating Tim?
No, I don't have the commercials.
Okay, you don't.
I didn't have to sit through that.
I got an
lucky
email.
Son of a gun. You lucky son of a gun, man.
I got an email, I think it was about a month and a half ago, that the cost of Disney Plus was gonna double. It was going to go from like $13 a month to get Hulu and Disney and ESPN and all that to like almost $30. So I was like, I'm not doing that. So I went for these commercials. God, like the commercials start in the middle of sentences. Mm-hmm. They'll be delivering a line. Boom. They're selling me. And like the commercial's so weird for what's supposed to be a kid Disney show. They're like prescription drug commercials.
And they're like
that.
long commercial breaks for a 30-minute show too. It's like 3-minute commercial breaks, and you get
How long did the show last with the commercials in it? Like
it's probably adds an extra 15-20 minutes.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it's rough.
Because you get 5 minutes of show and then like 3.5 minutes of commercials.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's great.
Yeah.
So, but the show we're getting in between all these commercials is pretty good. I am enjoying it. I'm going to go ahead and hit the comments so we can reply to those, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into it. Barry Allen is slow. And it says, can't say I remember no nerd champs. Can't say as I remember. Yeah, you knew that was going somewhere.
Yeah.
At some point. And then we've got Jon Snow Knows Nothing 1, Children of the Corn, Lord of the Flies vibes at the beginning. I was going to say the beginning of this episode, Tim, I was ready for your head to explode. I was ready for you to come on and decry all of Star Wars and be mad at yourself for liking the first few episodes because I thought we were going to get a multiverse story. I thought the barrier.
They kind of did mention, like, I mean, Neel went in there and he's just like, hey, why is this tree so big right here? And why, and all this stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, is this Atten, but in a different reality or something? It's weird. They kind of were giving the impression it could be. So,
I was worried we were going to get like a time traveling thing.
Yeah. And we all know that Tim deeply loves time travel, alternate realities, and multiverses. It's his favorite kind of story.
If they bring that to Star Wars, I will hunt down Kathleen Kennedy myself. So anyway,
I think we've uncovered why you love Star Wars. It's like the only thing in science fiction that does not touch the time travel multiverse trope. Like they have never,
not yet. Don't speak that evil on me, Dan. Don't
jinx it.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of it at the end of Rebels, I think, because they're in this thing where you could jump into different parts of time, but
yeah, and
all right,
that carried over to Ahsoka.
Yeah, Barry Allen is slow. It's a slower pacing this episode for sure. Felt more like a filler episode. Yeah, I mean the thing is,
agree.
When an episode is only going to be, how long was this episode? It didn't feel very long.
32 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, 32 minutes is just not. It's not a lot of episodes. There's not a lot that you can cover, and that's why in old school television, 30 minutes was for comedies. You know, because you could deliver a lot. But if you're going to have some kind of action or drama show, it needs to be an hour to deliver a good segment of story.
Do you think that they thought that they had this kind of like anime style filler episode that doesn't really overall connect rest of the story, and so they're just like, let's just get it out here, and we don't have enough to cover more than 30 minutes?
I think they're trying really, really hard to be kind of this generation's version of TOS. I think that they are trying really, really hard to be like the weekly 30-minute, kind of science fiction, kind of cult following kind of story. And that's what Disney Star Wars has kind of tried to be all along. They kind of tried to be something that was a little more brief, live action, something that would be kind of something for the fans, but it just hasn't landed the same way that series did back then. Number one, because that was on network TV and it's all that was on. There are just so many options now. People aren't going to, and viewership to this show is down and this show is good. So I think they kind of need to rethink maybe that. And I agree. Maybe if they can try to stretch these episodes out and have fewer episodes, but have them be longer, I would like that better than 8 30-minute episodes or 35-minute episodes or whatever.
I think we could have got away from the storyline with the group and then teaching the kids guns and taking them out into the middle of nowhere. We could have done without that, and it wouldn't have impacted the story at all.
Yeah,
and we could have gone on and done something else.
I was kind of wondering, let's talk about that for a second, because I'm glad you brought that up, Travis. So they meet these kids, and they're clearly kids, and they're clearly not warriors, right? And their response to this is, we need you to go fight for our cattle. We're going to put you out there. Let's go.
Well,
I don't really know what were they trying to accomplish here.
Tim, do you want to this week you can give us the synopsis? Like, you want to run through what
Okay, yeah,
happens
sure.
in the episode?
So from last week, they had the coordinates to what they thought was at Aten, but it was a planet that sounded like at Aten. What was it? It wasn't at Aten. At
Akron?
Acton, at
I think it's at
Acton or something like that.
something
Yeah.
like that,
So
yeah.
it was different. It was a different planet that they landed on, and when they landed, it became abundantly clear it was not at Aten. Okay. Yes, there was some kind of a village looking thing, but they got there, and it was very much like a war zone, and the buildings were torn down, and there was smoke, and there was all kinds of stuff. They're approached by some kids, which is, I think, where the Children of the Corn comment comes from. They were approached by some kids that said, "What flag do you fly?" or something like that. And basically, they were captured. They were taken to the leader of these kids, and it's some guy that it's not a kid; it's just some guy. And this guy basically explains to them that there's a lot of infighting going on this planet. This is a planet of war, essentially, is what it is. And there's been some kind of apocalyptic event, and there's all kinds of war happening. And so basically, they tell them they're from Aten. And they're telling what life on Aten is like and all this kind of stuff. Well, they tell these kids that they need to like
Prove their bravery.
Prove their bravery or prove that they're something. So they have to train them, and they have to train them with weapons and guns and combat and all kinds of stuff. And then they're going to send these kids out on the front line to fight to retrieve their cattle, which I think they believe was stolen from them. Right? Is that essentially what was happening? So, so basically, that's what's going on in that storyline. In another storyline, completely, Jude Law is whatever his name is. I can't really pronounce it. It starts with a J.
We'll go with Crimson Jack, right? Crimson Jack is what we're going to go with. So anyway, Crimson Jack has discovered the credits on the ship, and SM-33 calls him a thief, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. Well, turns out that everything's fine, and he goes out on his own. And so he goes out on his own on the planet, and these kids are out there training. And while they're training, one of the kids is talking to Neel, and Neel is telling her about Aten and what it's like to live in a peaceful society and not be at war all the time and all this kind of stuff. And and he's always trying to tell her, you always have a choice. You don't have to fight and all this kind of stuff. Well, then he's becoming the main character now.
He really is. He really is. I think he's really like the voice of reason that they were trying to push this whole time. And so then they put these kids out on the front line to fight the battle, and they hear a noise in the smoke, and they see that it's Crimson Jack, and he has used a couple of the credits in order to buy the cattle, so that there's kind of a peace agreement there. So he bought the cattle. There's not going to be any bloodshed, and because of this, they will give the kids the coordinates to the directions to a room. A room that has the coordinates to Aten. They get and several times throughout the episode, SM-33 keeps saying, "Ain't never heard of no Aten." Can't say as I never heard of no Aten. Something like that. They get to the room, and basically he says, "I've been here before," and because the coordinates are destroyed, and he says, "I'm the one that destroyed them." And then they say, "You have to tell us what it said." And then he keeps saying, "I can't say as I remember, no Aten." And this is when Fern figures it out that he's a droid and he does what he's told. So he was ordered to not remember what the coordinates were. And so she tells him, and then he kind of pulls the Biff Tannen, somebody told me that you would come and ask, he kind of pulls the Biff Tannen thing. And then he said, "I was told to tear you limb from limb. And then Crimson Jack hits his off switch and he falls down. And then,
after Neel does his heroic,
after Neel, yeah, that's right. Neel hits him with the rock and says, "Leave them alone."
He's going to be the R2-D2 of this series.
Something like that, right? And then, so he falls down, and that's pretty much it. Now, Did they get the coordinates? Remember, did they get
No,
any kind of?
their only chance was that it's buried in SM33's memory bank somewhere.
So they know that it's there somewhere, but they don't have it now.
But
they
he has, yeah,
he has it, and they decided to leave. So
they had to turn him off because he was going to rip him limb from limb. So,
yeah, this is kind of a trope that they've kind of pulled up before, where the droid has. I mean, this was in the Mandalorian, right? This is in the Mandalorian. The droid that, if he remembers, he's gonna be a bad guy, and so I think was that in Rogue One as well? Wasn't that a reformed droid in Rogue One? So there's a lot of that kind of stuff where they've done that before. So this is gonna kind of be a thing throughout the rest of the series. Is SM33 gonna remember what his orders were? So so that's pretty much I think, does that pretty much wrap it up, or did I miss anything?
Yeah. No, I think the planet that they land on is one of the jewels of the old Republic, as was established in the last episode. Yeah, and all of the architecture, the layout of the streets, this planet is exactly the same as their home planet. All the houses are in the same place. I think the topography is the same because they know how to get everywhere. It's just that it's post-apocalyptic, everything. And then this place that they go to, the Fallen Temple or whatever, on their home planet, that's the supervisor's office or whatever it is, which no one is allowed to go to on their planet. No one is allowed to go there. Nobody really knows what goes on there. So you're getting something like, there's these worlds are all tied in. And now the coordinates to all the other planets are still intact in that room, but the only one that has been destroyed is At-Aten. And we were told that all of these other worlds had already been destroyed, and At-Aten was the only one that wasn't.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting kind of thing. We're getting a bigger mystery on what are these worlds? Why were they set up this way? Were they all established at the same time? How did this one fall into a state of tribal warfare? It was different, it's so you get a lot of mystery built.
You kind of have the same questions, but just a deeper layer, maybe. Like,
yeah. I mean, most of that was already established. You just get a little bit of, I guess, flavor to it, you know? Yeah.
And the credits still end up holding impeccable value no matter where they go. So this is a lost planet as well, but this lost planet still accepts the currency. So it was it's very interesting to see that no matter where they go, these credits are still considered a very, very high value. So well,
even though it's like a post-apocalyptic world, they do establish in the dialogue with that tribe leader, the general that's putting them to war, that they do trade with other planets, because they're asking for how to get home. And he goes, I don't care about off-world matters except for when they buy our pelts for weapons. So they do trade with off-worlders. So they do have, like, money would be valuable there because they trade things for weapons and food with traders and merchants, I guess.
This world isn't as hidden as At-Aten, apparently.
No. Yeah. So, and we do get some SM33, which you could kind of, I mean, he was on At-Aten, so and he is a pirate droid, so you're like, he did go to At-Aten probably to steal some things. I mean, that wasn't a hard one to come up with, but that's definitely laid out now. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up what happened. You guys were getting into the whole thing about the kids being forced as cannon fodder, you know. So I thought the whole story seemed like a take on some of these war-torn areas on Earth, like places you would go.
Oh yeah.
And in these places with tribal wars that go for generations, and nobody really knows how it started or what it is. They do draft children into their fighting forces, and they are expendable. They're used as cannon fodder to draw fire, as human shields, as those kind of things.
They let them make the full range of decisions too. I mean, the guy let his daughter go out there with the other kids, like out front. Like, okay, I mean, little worried maybe about it or something, but he just okay, it's your decision.
Yeah, he did. They did respect her. He respect her call to call them a friend and go.
Hmm.
I think that that,
So,
that does a good job of again focusing the show. Like this is about kids. Like kids are the main characters of the show,
hmm.
even when they're in war situations. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
almost had kind of like remember the very end of Full Metal Jacket when, there's this sniper that keeps taking them out one by one, and they finally get up to the sniper and it's a kid, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And it was kind of that, it was like a real world thing at that
yeah,
moment. And so this is kind of like something kind of similar. It's these kids that were thrust into this really bad situation. It was a little bit of a lot of different stuff. Yeah, I know they mentioned Children of the Corn, Lord of the Flies type stuff. There's also some other post-apocalyptic fiction that it's similar to. I mean, Hunger Games is not dissimilar. There's a lot of other things, little elements of other things in there as well. So, just some real interesting things that they threw in. Once again, kind of going to kind of the compartmentalized video game type plot where it's just like you got to do this to get to this stage to get to this thing, which will help you get to the next level, kind of thing. So, kind of a similar thing like that, and then we
yeah.
kind of get to that. We get to that where it wraps the episode up. The Mandalorian was very similar that way, and the rest of these episodes have kind of been this way as well. So yeah.
Does the number of jewels of the Old Republic uh is it the same as the number of episodes? That's something that I mean, are they going to
Or the
visit?
number of episodes that are left. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
are there,
because
are there
they
7 in this one or 8? I haven't seen how
I
many.
yeah.
think there's 8. I think they're slotted for 8. I
All
think.
right.
I'm
So
gonna check.
this was 4.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we only have 4 left. So I don't, yeah, and there was more than that because they have the coordinates to the other worlds now. The only
Mm-hmm.
one that the coordinates was missing for was at Atten.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't turn SM-33 on, I mean all of these other planets you would think have that same room
Mm-hmm.
with the coordinates for all the other planets, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I guess you start crossing them off the list if you don't want to risk getting murdered by your pirate droid, by
And
turning it
at
back on.
some point, somebody's got to have the equipment for Kim to be able to input what she put in order to get them to this planet. So somebody is going to be on their tail. If it's the Republic or if it's the pirates, somebody will be on their tail sooner or later. But yeah.
Yeah. So, but I know also, Tim, we had some of that wonderful CGI that you love so much with the giant gun on top of the school.
Mm-hmm. The
That
gun
was
on top of the
so
school, the cattle. There was just a lot of that wonderful Disney Plus CGI. So yeah, but
yeah,
it actually didn't bother me as much in this episode, just because it wasn't as pronounced and zoomed in as it was when it was on Kim, which really did bug me. But the rest of them, I mean, the rest of these episodes, it really hasn't been a big part of the story. Usually it's just showing the ships or something like that, but it's not my choice, and I think it looks a little cheap, but for the most part it hasn't ruined the story so far. I'll put
yeah,
it that way.
Did you guys feel like, I mean, going back to last week, Kim, even though she was CGI, it kind of gave her a movement feel like old school Yoda, like the puppet from the original.
Yeah.
We
Like,
were talking about that. We
she
were
was kinda
thinking
like,
they should have done practical with
they
her
should have,
almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like they're
It
like,
felt
we feel like
weird.
we should have done this, so let's make her move a little bit. Like that.
Yeah.
yeah. Make her move like she is.
Yeah,
But yeah, where it loses you is the face.
Yeah.
yeah.
The face is what, because I don't know, they want to make it too expressive by doing this CGI. And I mean, Yoda was a puppet and he was super expressive,
Yeah.
without
He was
Well,
great.
the thing about Yoda that people forget is he wasn't just a puppet. Okay, he was an actual Jim Henson Muppet, and so
Yeah.
they had to build the world the way that you build a Jim Henson Muppet. You had to build everything like 3 or 4 feet up so the puppeteer can be underneath.
Right.
And so you don't have to do that when you do CGI, which I get, but it looks so much better. I just don't
And
understand why
Neil's
they can't.
face is like kind of animatronic.
Yeah.
with the tree,
Yeah.
and it looks really good.
It does. It does.
Yeah, Neel is definitely a practical effect, and
Uh-huh.
he looks real. I mean, Neel.
I
mean,
like
there
that.
might be
I like
CGI
Neil a lot.
smoothing,
Yeah.
but yeah, that is very well done.
He's definitely a favorite at my house. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
is he?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there
I mean, he
was a lot of
really.
tears over SM33 this week, going like bad on everybody and what.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
wife was like, "No."
Man, he's a scumbag pirate, sooner or
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
that's right.
Because SM33 has been really fun. He's like a
is.
been a great character, but yeah, he just flipped out. But yeah, we got to have a spotlight on Neel, and Neel is a fun character. He's got a level head. He's not really looking for big adventure. He wishes he wasn't tied up in all this nonsense,
Yeah.
And then
And he gets the kiss in the episode.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah. And like our
how's the green goat girl gonna feel about that when he gets back
I
to
know, right?
Manhattan? I mean, he's gonna have
We
to
have a new
just be
crush
like,
now.
"Hey, man, I was in a war zone. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry." But
and then Fern, we got to see Fern have a freak out at the end of this.
yeah, which Fern never freaks out. That was kind of a unique thing because Fern is the one that's always kind of calm, cool, collected. Nothing bothers her. It's like, oh, we just launched into hyperspace. No big deal. We'll find our way. We'll just make it up as we go along. But no, this episode, she was actually like bearing the responsibility of the group.
Yeah.
It felt very different than it had previously.
Yeah.
And the girl that plays her does it. I mean, she's doing a good job.
She's great.
acting.
Yeah.
All the
she's
kids
great.
have done really good job acting wise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
these
with the exception,
performances
I think Wim is probably the least of the weakest of them, but for the most part, which is really weird. I for the main character who's supposed to be the main
He's
character,
built that way. I feel like.
I feel like Wim has so many vulnerabilities, but the character itself is just not somebody that. It's not somebody that I just love. You know what I mean? Like generally, a main protagonist in a Star Wars project, you have a deep emotional connection to them right away. And I just don't feel that with Wim like I normally would. I feel it with some of these other characters. I feel it with Neel. I'm starting to feel it for Fern, but yeah, Wim, I'm just not there yet.
And
maybe it's coming.
With the visor, get some pretty good.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Wim has just been a little bit. He is too naive. He's just a little bit too gung ho.
They just put him in there on a whim. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were thinking. They were like, what's his name got to be? Well, let's see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, he's like the key one. They're all in the bunker of the tribe that they've gotten stuck with, and KB, Wim, even Fern, they're all like getting into this training with these weapons, and Neil's standing back like he wants nothing to do with it because he knows that they're not going to be good at this in like a couple minutes. They're not going to turn into Green Berets.
I think he's smart. Yeah. He was romancing this girl back there as well.
Yeah. He was just like, look, man, look. All right. What if we can just talk about it? Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just
but that girl looks at Neel and goes, your friends are hopeless.
Yeah.
And Wim, of his friends, Wim is the most hopeless. He is super into like, I'm gonna be a commando.
Yeah.
Watch me fire this bazooka and get shot across the room in a comedy scene. And at some point, the gravity of these situations needs to start weighing on him a little more.
Yeah.
I mean, it finally hit Fern this week. It has to hit Wim next week or the week after. He needs to start realizing like this is really dangerous.
Yeah.
My dad's probably worried about me, those kind of things need to start occurring to him a little bit.
It's like a story to him,
Yeah.
It started out with those episodes where he's reading it almost like on his iPad or whatever, the Jedi stories, and living a story now, and it hadn't hit him the real reality of it.
Yeah. The reality is still not sunk in on him. Mm-hmm. So eventually it needs to for us to relate to him. We're relating to the other characters because they're actually, they're reacting. They're getting a little bit freaked out because they want to get home. They're worried about their parents. They know that they're in danger here. Yeah.
And there's other stories that are kind of the same way, right? With characters that kind of are a little more along for the ride and that kind of stuff. And so this is no different than some of those, but it is kind of interesting that we land in a literal war zone, and it wasn't even enough to have him wake up and realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should, like, maybe we should try to find another way. No, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna figure. And that was the scene where they were actually walking on the front line. It was actually a very well shot scene. Just the silence and the sound of war is something that they really were going for, and I think that really kind of brought it to a real place for a minute with these characters, because you don't know what's on the other side of that smoke either. And so it was just very real. So it was different, and it was definitely slower pacing, but I feel like we got some character development from some of the main characters in this that is going to kind of roll forward. So
yeah, and the Jude Law character, we continue to get this tug of war that he is absolutely a scoundrel and a pirate, and he mostly doesn't care, and he's very greedy, but at the same time he kind of cares. That's sinking in a little bit. Like he gets SM-33. It's when SM-33 starts winking out, he says, I think this planet's messing with me. It did this when I was here before. And so he's like, oh, wait, let me get out here and we'll jog your memory about At-Atten, because he's ready to get the droid to remember At-Atten and abandon everything. And that's when they walk out and run into the other tribe that's warring, that has stolen the cattle. Mm-hmm. But when he works all that out and he runs into them, he does trade the cattle back, and they're like, what do you want for recovering our cattle? And he's like, well, I'll take these 4. And he takes the kids back. Whereas then they're like, are you sure you don't want our finest pelts? And he does say, well, how many pelts are you talking about? Like, he might change his mind. But at the end of the day, he doesn't, and he does trade it back for the kids. So, like, you're getting this tug of war with, like, how bad is he really? And so that's some character development that's going on.
Yeah, because he hugs, 2 of the kids hug him when they run up. And
right. And then shortly after, Wim realizes that he saved them by stealing his money.
Yeah.
So
what with my credits? I mean, dude, you left them in the ship. Like, yeah. That's what's going to happen.
Those are community credits now.
I don't think you're complaining that there's no war on the other side of that smoke, man. So, it's all good.
Yeah. Hey, it was just lunch money back home. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
How much did their lunch cost, man? He bought a whole herd of animals.
With 2 of them, man.
Yeah.
2. Yeah. What do you guys have any idea or speculation of what the great work is? Like, what are they doing on that at, and what were they trying to do on these other planets?
I wondered if they weren't making credits, like if this was the mint that was making the money.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Yeah, it might be now. I did on the first episode. The first episode had such a old school, almost Charlie Brown feel, that whenever adults talked, it was kind of like wah 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 wah. And when they were in school and the droid was talking before the administrator came in and said they were going to have the test, I played it back because I swore maybe that it was just going wah wah wah. I wanted to see if it was saying something important, and it was talking. The droid was actually talking about currency and exchange rates. That's what the droid was talking about when they were in school. It was talking about exchange rates and monitoring currencies, and fungibility, I think, was in there of currency. So
and the kids have mentioned, I know Neil has, that they're hoping that when they grow up, they can have these jobs like their parents, almost like they just train the next generation to do this.
And all of their parents are like either data analysts or accountants, or they're all bean counters of some kind. It's crazy because you think to yourself, like, there was no diversity in that room whatsoever about what these kids wanted to be when they grew up. And these parents are never home. That's the other thing that Dan has pointed out several times. These parents are never home. So whatever these people are responsible for counting and accounting and checking and balancing, it is something that requires a lot of time. And so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff on at Atten that is still to be explained. And I just think it's weird that droids are running the whole thing. Like anytime you see any kind of authoritative figure, it's a droid. And so I'm really curious as to what's going on there.
And
so,
Fern's mom has mentioned, I don't remember what they called her, the commander or high, something. And I wonder if that is that a droid? Is that a human?
Yeah.
I mean, we could be getting into some real. You mentioned TOS earlier.
Yeah.
We could be getting into some real Star Trek tropes, and you could have the planet that is secretly ran by a supercomputer.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's an old TOS thing, and we also, I mean, that's been in several other things since then, right? There was a Futurama that was based on that. There was a bunch of other stuff, so that could be what we're looking at. I agree, and
we just need Captain Kirk to get the computer into a logic loop where it blows itself up and freezes people. So I don't know who the Captain Kirk of this situation is going to be. Maybe it'll be Fern.
It'll be Wim, somehow
making his comeback.
He'll finally step up and deliver something other than blind excitement.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, I mean, and I know that we're just all still trepidatious. Because we've gotten so much awful, and like you say, the viewership is falling off. And I'm telling you, I feel it's because of the track record. Yeah, it has nothing to do with this show and the quality of this show.
There's a lot about this that I think has to do with the viewership. I think first of all, the timing is really weird. It releasing a series like this in December. On Tuesday nights or Tuesday nights, it's going to be really weird because you're going to be fighting a lot of holiday specials. You're going to be fighting a lot of football. You're going to be fighting a lot of different things. People travel. So there's a lot of the timing is really, really weird with that. And then the other thing with it is they really did not promote this show as much as I thought that they were going to. I saw, I think, one trailer for it, like one. And so, if they really wanted to boost the viewership, they would have really hit the promo. But I think they didn't want the negative reaction from a trailer to get people to start the internet hate before the series was even released. I think that's what they were trying to avoid. But in doing that, I think they kind of cut their viewership way, way down. They're hoping is that people will enjoy it, spread the word, and then people will kind of discover it later. That's what I think that they're hoping with this. I just don't know if that's going to stick. So
I think some of this pay, the pay for the streaming going up and the commercials. I don't know, maybe that's some of that played in there.
Oh, that's definitely it. That's definitely part of it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Disney Plus itself is just it's not what it used to be. So
the thing is, I don't know if there's enough positive word of mouth to bring back some of the people that Star Wars has lost. We can come out here and say it's good and that we're enjoying it. People as big as Star Wars Theory can come out and say, like, this is the first Star Wars thing I've liked in forever, but it still doesn't result in huge viewership because they've already burned through. Some people are like, every time you come out with something awful, you lose a certain portion of your fan base that just isn't going to come back. And so they've done that so many times now that, like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we're to a point where what they're hoping for is that the season is good enough that even if the viewership is way down, people will like it well enough that there will be a season 2, and that's when they can go all in on the promo. That's when they can go all in on the timing, making sure that the release date is going to be good, making sure that they're going to have the budget necessary to do what they need to do. That's what I think they're really building towards. This is kind of the season that's kind of priming for the season 2. And when season 2 comes out, that's when they're really going to try to boost that viewership up. So that's what I think they're doing.
You think we're going to get a cliffhanger at the end, like waiting for season 2, or you think things will be right?
I mean, they put cliffhangers even on shows that I feel like they know that are not going to go anywhere. So yeah, I feel like they always are going to leave the door open. You know what I mean? Like that Solo movie they knew was not going to go anywhere, and they left a big cliffhanger at the end with all the stuff with Darth Maul and all that. So Disney does this with almost everything, where they kind of like, it's like you can wrap it up in your own mind if you want to, but just in case, we're going to leave the door open right here. So I think they probably will do something like that, but we'll see.
I mean, Ahsoka ended in a cliffhanger.
Yep. And then Ray Stevenson died, so here we are. It's like
the Acolyte ended in a cliffhanger.
The Acolyte ended in a cliffhanger, right?
You know what? You're not getting more of that, though.
The only thing that ended with absolutely no cliffhanger is the thing where we know we're going to get more of, because Mandalorian season 3 ended with like the Mando semi-retired.
Yeah,
on a swamp world with a shack, and
the Mandalorian, I feel like, always has ended in a very, very wrapped up way. Season 1 was that way. Season 2 felt like the perfect ending for that series, and then all of a sudden, season 3 comes and it kind of has a wrap up. And so, I don't know how in the world they're going to do this again, but yeah.
But all of these, and here's the thing. If they don't give us the answer to this mystery of what is at Atten by the end of this season, I'm really enjoying this show, but I don't need this. If they don't give us
don't
the
drag
answer,
it on.
I'm going to think that they don't have the answer, because I've
don't
watched
drag it
too
on.
many shows. I watched too many shows that were built on a mystery, and then you watch it long enough and you realize, oh wait, they haven't thought this all the way through. They don't know what the answer to the question is,
In the early 2000s, there was a procedural crime drama called The Mentalist. I don't know if you guys remember it. It was on CBS. It's a great show. It's a great show. But they did that. They introduced a serial killer in episode 1. They went I think they went like 6 or 7 seasons. And it's like, who's the serial killer? Who's the serial killer? Who's the serial killer? Well, then it got to the point where it's like, it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense for him not to know. And so that's kind of what, if you're going to have that mystery, I agree with you, Dan. It needs to be just a season-wide mystery. That's it. Yeah. You don't need to make this a mystery for the entirety of our time with these characters.
Like, the X-Files. X-Files was built like, they started building it like there's this underarching mystery that you're going to unlock, and then you realize after a couple more seasons of them doing it, like, wait a minute, no, they don't have a plan. They do not know where this is going. The Blacklist was like that, like Who's Red. If anybody watched The Blacklist, and then you realize they don't know, they're just making this up as they go along. Anything connected to J.J. Abrams, there's never a plan. He has no idea how that's going to end.
Force Awakens. Oh man,
yeah, from Alias to Force Awakens. If you see his name, it's going to start out like, ooh, what's going on? And then you're going to realize, wait, they don't know what's going on. There's
because that was the whole thing, right? He introduced this whole mystery with Rey in Force Awakens. And he had no idea what the answer was. He had no clue what the answer was. You know what I mean? And then they did 2 movies later. They just kind of made it up. They're like, They
didn't even get on the internet and find all the good stuff that people came up with.
I know, yeah. Palpatine's daughter. I mean, that was like that's like the least in creative thing.
The lamest option he could imagine. They were just like, you know what? Everybody hates us now. We need some goodwill. You know what? We've lost Billy D's number. Let's see if we can find it. Let's get Lando in this one. I know we had a gambling planet in the last one. We didn't bother calling him.
Yeah.
Let's strand him in the middle of a desert.
I'm going to be a little upset if we don't see Lando at some point in this series. I'm not going to lie. Like, if we're dealing with all these duplicitous scoundrel people and we don't see Lando at some point, I'm really going to be upset. That's just all I'm going to say. So, yeah.
I mean, that would be
missed opportunity number 1 right there.
Danny Glover, right? It would be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could get him for this for cameo. I don't know. He's pretty big now, Tim. And Billy D. I mean, Billy. Yeah, this is not in a timeline where it would be Billy D. Lando. It would definitely be be Glover.
I was expecting in the one episode,
not Danny Glover, Donald Glover. You're thinking
Donald
Glover.
Yeah.
I was expecting the third episode when the guy gets out of the X-wing to be the guy that's always in the X-wing in the Mandalorian. You know?
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah. I was expecting
he
that
just
too.
keeps recurring, like he's always in the X-wing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
then it
Yeah.
wasn't.
I thought that maybe they would tie that in with that. It's the Asian guy, right? Yeah.
yeah.
It's
The
always
Asian
the
guy.
same guy.
Yeah.
He's like the beat cop that's always like,
Yeah, he's always flying around in the X-wing.
yeah, he's like one step behind Mando every time.
Yeah,
You know. But yeah, I mean, so far though, I mean, I hope this episode, I hope the show does find an audience, because this is the best thing Disney's done with Star Wars since, I don't know. I mean, this is more like, what would you? I would say that this is more in the spirit of what Star Wars always was and was intended to be than something like Andor.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you, I mean, because Andor is just so adult, dark, and mature. It's not really built with the high adventure, family friendly stakes that Star Wars was supposed to be when it started out, and this very much is. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I get the feeling that when we're talking about the kind of stuff that was on the table when George was just sitting down and trying to plan out all of his projects, you know, the stuff that we looked at for Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all these things that George did early on, you think to yourself, what did all those things have in common? Well, they were just that fun adventure story. And that's just kind of what I get from this. It's just kind of a fun adventure story. It's not really worrying about trying to fool the audience. You don't need to worry about that. We've already been twisted into pretzels too many times trying to guess what you're trying to do. Just give us a fun, compelling adventure story and let us enjoy it. And, it can be predictable. That's okay.
It doesn't have to be dark, super dark.
That's it. It doesn't have to be
doesn't
super
have to.
dark. It doesn't have to be adult themed. It doesn't have to be political. You don't have to have any of that in here to get people to watch it. You can just turn it on and say, this is fun. Go ahead and watch it. And that's what I get from this show a lot. And I really enjoy it. That's what I enjoy about this show a lot, is that they kind of have that feel.
That's what a lot of those 80s movies were, like Goonies. You guys talked about E.T. and all those.
Yeah.
They didn't have an agenda. There was no dark. It was just fun. It was fun. An adventure.
Yeah. And I was telling in the first episode, I was saying this is very much not just Goonies, but it's E.T., it's the Explorers.
Yeah.
In the 80s, we had all of these movies focused on kids, kids that were like 8 to like 13 or 14, and they were on these adventures, and we weren't being talked down to.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just for kids. The whole family could enjoy it because the stakes were real and they were fun. And that's why I was saying, I don't know if this generation of kids could even, because these are Gen X space kids. They're latchkey. They're from single parent families. They play outside. They don't have video games taking up all their time. They're a different kind of kid than what kids are today.
Mm-hmm.
These are the kind of kids that were in ET. And if kids would watch this, maybe they decide, you know what, it looks fun to go play outside.
Yeah,
they would.
It's got that Stranger Things feel, and I think that's what people are. It's what's big. It's what's popular now, and maybe it's because it's our generation that grew up when all those movies are the ones consuming everything right now.
Yeah,
yeah. I think about when I was a kid and watching like Sandlot. Like it was my dad's era that the movies were made about, and now that I'm the dad, the movies are made about the era that I grew up in.
Yeah. Oh, Bonebridger, when did the Ewoks show up? That's the question. Like
hey, now we had a teak, right? So it's
that Aten is actually on Endor. You haven't realized it yet.
It's the other side of the planet, right?
That is the forest moon of Endor where the pirate thing was, because I mean the teak, we have to think that species is indigenous to the forest
Endor, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because have you seen the battle for in Travis? The wonderful thing.
It's been a long time, but I have seen it.
But see, the little speedy fairy guy is from the battle for Endo. Bone Bridger says good. He's ready for the Ewoks. This is we're not exactly sure how many years after Return of the Jedi this is.
Mm-hmm.
So, a big battle just got fought over the forest moon of Endor.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ewoks did take over an AT-ST. One of them did try to pilot a speeder bike.
Mm-hmm.
So, are the Ewoks going to be a spacefaring race in short order now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because there is no, like what is it in Star Trek? The
Well, and we saw Jawas, right?
the primary
we saw
directive.
we
Or
saw
they don't have that in
Jawas.
Star Wars.
We saw Jawas in the series. So Tatooine dwelling individuals have made their way to this pirate place.
They're in space now,
right?
Yeah.
So we saw Jawas and we saw a
I'm
teak.
waiting
and
for that movie. Jawas in space.
Yeah, I want to see spacefaring Ewoks and just a whole ship of Ewoks barreling out at a spaceport. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I did like in the last episode though that there's like a throwaway line about Alderaan and the war. And
Yeah.
oh, you guys didn't know? Like you,
Yeah.
like the kids, we've learned about these planets, but one of them doesn't exist anymore because it got blown up.
Right.
Yeah. It was Kim that brought that up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So these kids are definitely, they've been sequestered. They have no idea that the Empire even happened. This is
Doesn't sound like it.
they're still operating under old Republic. Well, because they still talk about the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows that Jedi are a thing, and
Yeah.
everybody knows they're real. Whereas within the Empire timeline, by the time of A New Hope, people aren't even sure the Jedi were even real.
Mm-hmm.
Like Han's pretty sure the Force isn't even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like most everybody's convinced of that when you watch the original trilogy.
It makes me wonder if they're going to make more connections. Like, is Emperor Palpatine going to have taken over this great work from the old Republic, and did that follow through with him? And now the New Republic has it. Like, how that's going to fit in, or if they're going to make that connection.
Yeah. I'm really interested to figure out. I mean, it does seem like the best thing is that there's some kind of a mint, or they're the New Republic Fed, but that just seems like a deeply unadventurous explanation. It's kind of like a Phantom Menace explanation. This is like, what people complain about the prequels. They get clogged up with interspatial politics and stuff. So like this seems like high adventure. If we're like, oh, the secret is this is the New Republic Fed, and they set interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how exciting that's going to be.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's going to be a really, really interesting thing. I'm with you though, Dan. I hope they don't drag it out, and I hope it kind of works into something that they can kind of roll into a different story for a season 2. Because if this is kind of the only thing they're giving us with these characters, I kind of think it might be an opportunity wasted, because these characters they're gonna find a home. I bet you right now at Galaxy's Edge that people are looking for all the Neel toys. They're probably looking for them like crazy there right now. So I would bet that the merchandising alone is going to be something that's going to push this to a season 2. And if that's the case, I think they need to wrap up what's happening with At-Atten in season 1 so that we can actually kind of have a plan for what we're going to do with these characters.
They're going to have to give us some answers to move some of that merchandise.
Yeah. I think Neel might be their first genuine opportunity to have a merchandisable character since Grogu. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this could be the one, their next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we have any idea what they're going to do next week? What do you guys? I mean, are they going to turn SM-33 back on? What do you guys think they're going to do next week?
I hope we don't fall into a lot of plot and dialogue, like all that. I hope we get some more action. But I feel like they're going to have to do some explaining. Some explaining to do.
I do think that we're gonna have a little more action next week. I think that either the Pirates or the Republic's gonna be catching up with them. So we'll see what happens there. We haven't seen the Pirates in a while. So I'm guessing the pirates are going to be a part of the next episode. So
I'm
we'll see.
hoping for some like Indiana Jones style, like let's go in some kind of ruins and their traps and stuff. I don't know. I was expecting that more of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, with this
And even
bombed
with the
out world.
Goonies, all the
Yeah.
traps and stuff.
With the
Yeah.
Goonie vibes, you really want that kind of stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, they had a whole thing going on. Maybe they'll get caught up by the Republic and the pirates next week. But
Yeah.
other pirate things. There's always booby traps and stuff. That's a missed opportunity. So they need to, maybe next episode there'll be something like that set up.
Mhm.
So did we have anything else from around the world that we wanted to touch on this week? Do you guys want to touch on the Superman trailer? Did you want to? What were your thoughts? Did you watch it, Travis?
I did twice.
What did you think? Twice.
It gives me hope. The last DC world buildings, it just didn't all work. It didn't fit together for me anyway. And so I think James Gunn, he's a great writer, and he does great character driven stuff. I think we saw that with Guardians of the Galaxy, and each of those characters getting their story and you getting into where they've been and who they're becoming. And so I think it can be great. And this trailer gave me hope, and it didn't stay. Tim and I kind of talked about this earlier. It didn't go all dark, and it was a little light. I mean, there was some darkness to it, but it was lighter.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
lighter there.
Yeah. I think the key moment in that trailer that filled me with hopefulness was the scene of Superman saving the child.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jumping in front of that child as something crashes in. Like, that's just, and to do that scene and to put it in the trailer,
Mhm.
they're letting you know this is a different Superman. This is your old Superman. This is the one that saves the little kids, that doesn't just smash the city and snap necks and cry. This is the hopeful Superman. This
Not
is
Punisher Superman.
Yeah, he doesn't get his feelings hurt at a truck stop and twist a truck into the pole, and so yeah.
So
But
I'm very hopeful. I think that Corn Sweet, how do you say his name? Does anybody David? Anyway,
I just call him David. Yeah.
Old David.
Just in the scenes with no dialogue, he gave more differentiation between his Clark and his Superman than they let Cavill do in any of those movies.
Is there what dialogue is?
The only dialogue is when he talks to the dog. When he says,
take me home.
Take me home.
Yeah.
But like just the scenes of him walking around and looking around as Clark, he's selling Clark as a nerdy guy that you wouldn't think is Superman better than they did in any of the Cavill Superman. You know what I'm saying? You could tell he's doing the thing where he acts like a dork when he's Clark so that people won't put it together, even though all it is glasses and different hair. But he's selling it even in those scenes, even though he doesn't talk. I felt like he was selling it. So I was a sucker for the John Williams march on a Top Gun guitar. I thought that was some 80s synergy that really worked for me. The original Superman's from the 70s, but that was all cross-pollinated nostalgia vibes that I really liked.
That was
What
good.
if we played it on a Top Gun guitar? What if we did that? It's like, yes, that works.
I feel like James Gunn he knows that he's got to come out swinging in this one. He cannot just he doesn't have a studio that has the patience to go ahead and do this as a slow burn like they did with the first few movies of the MCU. So yeah, I feel like he knows he's got to come out swinging. I mean, we saw Green Lantern in this one, and I was talking in our group chat, Dan, that's going to be Guy. Is that what I understand?
I think it's Guy in this trailer. We're gonna have Hal on TV.
We know that Hal's going to be on TV, right? And so is John, right? John's going to be on TV as well,
right? And we've got Hawk Girl in this trailer.
Yep. So a lot to get excited about just off the trailer. I feel like the one thing that people are going to maybe have qualms about is the presence of crypto as kind of a central plot piece, and so that's kind of the only thing that I think people are going to maybe have qualms about. But the special effects look fantastic. The suit looks fantastic. Their portrayal of Superman is the thing that is the most important in this movie. Okay. That they have absolutely just nailed it. He's the shining beacon of hope. He's truth, justice, the American way. He is Superman, and that is something that has been lost on Superman for a long time. Even even in the early 2000s when they tried Superman Returns, I mean, they really didn't go that direction with Superman, which was technically it was technically a sequel to the Donner series, and so that's why it was so weird that they went that direction with the character. And then we know that they didn't do that in the Snyder universe. So I'm really excited about them getting back to the character of Superman, the John Byrne. That's what I think of when I think of Superman. Is I think of the John Byrne series. That's
the Man
that's
of Steel
what
reboot.
that's what comes into my mind, and that's what I want to see on the big screen. So
The
looks great.
Now I'm all for Crypto. I thought he seemed pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where he's walking through protesters and they throw a can at him and people are yelling at him.
That's very Batman versus Superman vibes.
Well,
much.
It seems very much like it could be the Message.
Yeah.
They might be trying to put some politics in here. Man, Superman just needs to be pure escapism, man.
I've never seen James Gunn really go for all the political stuff. He tries to offend as many people as possible with anything.
But
going back to Crypto, though, I think you see James Gunn, he really likes these obscure characters. Not that Crypto's obscure, but he's not used in a lot. But like with the Creature Commandos and Suicide Squad, he reaches back and takes some of these characters from DC's lore that I mean, people have not heard of, and he does really good things. I mean, he does really good things with them.
That's how it's going to be when he comes out with some of the rest of this stuff that we know is on the slot. We know that the Authority is in phase 1, and that's another one that's going to be kind of in that same vein of kind of reaching back. A lot of people aren't going to be familiar, but that allows
comics. You might not know who that is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that allows him the opportunity to kind of work and do what he does. He's got Superman and he's got Green Lantern and he's got all these other characters that we're familiar with. But the ones that he doesn't, those are going to be the most popular ones because that's what happened with him when he did Guardians of the Galaxy. So
and I do like that this is going to be a like they go in medias res. The story is already in motion. Type of universe. These are we're not going to get a whole bunch of origin stories because people are sick of origin stories. And like, who doesn't know Superman's origin? Like, you know what I'm saying? We're not going to see the pearls fall again for Batman. Everybody knows Batman's origin. And honestly, that's like going to the shop and picking up a comic book. Because if you go to a comic book, if you go to a shop on a random month and pick up Superman that month, it's not his origin story. He's in the middle of a fight with like a 3-issue arc usually, and this is number 2 of a fight that he's having with Brainiac or Lex Luthor or whatever. And so doing it that way, it could be really fun. And one of the biggest films in recent superhero history is Dark Knight Returns. It's Dark Knight. And that's how Dark Knight, because a lot of people don't even, like, to this day, people don't even realize Batman Begins is part of that. Because Dark Knight was so much bigger than Batman Begins. And so, the movie starts, Batman is already Batman, and the movie ends, and Batman is still Batman. And it's like reading a comic book. You know what I'm saying? It's just an adventure in the middle of all these characters doing these things. So I think this could work. I'm hopeful.
Me too.
Yeah.
Travis, what do you have coming up? What's the next thing people could be looking for? Where they find you? What do you have coming on?
So I got to get after I get off here. I'm going to be writing up an article about Sonic 3. So I got Sonic 3 coming out. I watched Red 1 last night. I got something coming out. I'll be bringing out something about that on my website. It was okay.
Okay. And me and Tim, we will be back here next Thursday, Boxing Day, for our English friends, if we have any, which I think we might still have a few from back in the Rings of Power days. So we will be back on Boxing Day to talk about some more Skeleton Crew. In the meantime, we just released our abridged, edited, or we just got done working on our edited Battle for Indoor review. I'm working on the abridged versions of the Skeleton Crew reviews. Tim's, what do we got going on? What's going to be the next thing that we?
We do have the debate dropping on whether or not Die Hard's a Christmas movie. That's going to come out probably sometime early next week. And we at some point we're going to get our video together of the best on-screen Santa, but we haven't done that yet. So yeah, but we've got some good stuff coming, Dan.
Before Christmas. So
hopefully
until next week, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and make them do it too. Find Travis, read his write-up about Sonic 3 and Red 1, and we'll see you next time.